A small ember glows in the darkness of a crisp April evening. The wind is howling, and the ember springs into a flame. The wind is deafening, and the flames begin to lick up the surrounding areas as fast as lions to their fresh prey. The flames blaze in the distance, and I can smell them coming closer. On April 14th, 2015, they arrive at my doorstep, threatening to take away the home that I had worked to build on the hill. I can see no other choice but to flee, avoiding things like I had done my entire life. Once safely across the river, looking back at the smoking campus, I thought that I had finally escaped. But I knew deep down that the time had come. The time had come for me to tell somebody about the ember that had been glowing in the back of my heart ever since I can remember. The time had come for me to finally tell one of my best friends at the time and brothers in Christ that I'm gay. A gay Catholic. Maya Angelou once said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." She was right. I would like to invite you all on a journey of self-discovery, self-love, and finding your own flow while going against the grain. If you could all please close your eyes, I'm going to paint you a picture and allow your mind to fill it with the details. There's a battlefield. There are two armies in the heat of battle. As one side loses a soldier, so does the other side. The armies remain at the exact same strength. The armies have been fighting for 20 years and will continue to battle. That's what it's like in my heart of a gay Catholic. You're welcome to open up your eyes. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you a snapshot of growing up gay and Catholic, a snapshot into the mind of a scared 12-year-old boy. June 8th, 2001 started out like any other summer day for a 5-year-old. I'd tagged along to softball practice with my sister and my brother and my mom, and we had just gotten home. I'd flipped on the TV, and my brother was outside mowing the lawn. My mom comes into the living room crying. She told me to go get my brother. We all sat down, and she told us that she had cancer. It was on that day that I'd started to keep all of my feelings to myself. I had to be strong. No one would see me cry. No one would know the struggles that I was facing. I really started to notice that I was different when I moved to a new school in third grade, and I preferred to hang out with the girls. I didn't want to play football on the playground. I didn't have any other crushes on the girls like the other boys seemed to have. Now, that's a lot for an 8-year-old to handle, to notice that he's different from the other boys. The years went by, and the differences only became more apparent to me. Naturally, to fit in, I started to play football and basketball and baseball, but it just really didn't do it for me. 6th grade rolls around, and the hormones are starting to be noticed, and this was the first time that I can remember that I was attracted to a guy. I remember being terrified when the small crush happened. I was living in a small town in North Dakota. I just started to become an independent and active member in my parish, and for a kid who's 11 or 12, who was always told when the topic rarely came up that being gay wasn't acceptable, it's a lot to handle. Of course, I wasn't receiving all the credible sources about what the Catholic Church actually teaches, but the topic was never really addressed. What would my friends think if they ever found out that I liked a guy, or my family, or the people I went to church with? I told myself that I was never going to talk about it. It was just a phase, and that's when I decided it was easier to lie to myself than face the facts. The feeling of not being a good enough man. It was easy for me to pretend like nothing was wrong. I had my mom and her battle to deal with between rounds of chemo and radiation and surgeries. It didn't take much to push these new feelings to the back of my mind. In typical junior high fashion, the hormones only raged harder, and the feelings for other guys only grew stronger. My classmates' relationships started and stopped as fast as the classes changed between the day. We know how that went. And the feeling of inadequateness only grew more. I wasn't straight. I didn't think about girls. I didn't watch or play sports. I felt like such a letdown of a man. I was constantly feeling like I was just one big lie. Not only was I lying to everyone around me, but I was lying to myself. I never let it show, but I cared so much about what people thought about me. I was extremely self-conscious, and I just assumed that my classmates didn't really care about me. If I ever came out, I'd be a laughingstock. I'd get bullied like the stories that I'd read on TV, read online, or seen on TV. While looking back, I don't think any of that would have happened, but in the mind of a 13-year-old, you don't really think about the good outcomes, only the worst. High school finally started, and I was ready for the next 4 years to fly by and for me to get out of this small town. Even with a new schedule and a new year, the feelings were exactly the same. As much as I prayed and wished for these same-sex attraction feelings to just go away, they only got stronger. And I only grew more bitter. Bitter with myself, bitter with God, bitter with my family, just plain old bitter. I did finally start to find my own flow within the arts. Shocking, I know, a gay man in the arts. I did become heavily involved in music and speech and drama and excelled to become a state champion in all three. But to be honest, most of the guys in my class just intimidated the hell out of me. Of course, I never let them know that, but I was just scared. They were everything that I thought a man should be. Many of them were in football and basketball and had girlfriends, and if they didn't have girlfriends, they liked to talk about girls or they liked to talk about sports, and frankly, I had no interest in either. That only deepened the divide that I'd already felt and just drove me further into the closet. In March of my freshman year of high school, my mom ended up passing away from her battle with cancer. It turned my world upside down. The thing that I had used to push the fact that I was gay to the back of my mind was now gone. I know my mom had to have known I was gay. She was a high school counselor, incredibly in tune with people's emotions, especially her kids. Looking back, I knew I had experienced unconditional love in the most raw sense. The love of a mother for her child. She loved me so much that she didn't ask if I was gay. Because it didn't matter. All that mattered was that I was her son and she loved me. After her death, I threw myself into my activities. I became a force to be reckoned with in speech, took multiple music solos and ensembles to state every year, and even with my success in activities, I still felt like a letdown and a failure. As a man, as a Catholic, as a person. As I became more active in my parish, I knew I never wanted to come out. I went as far as trying to convince myself that I was straight, and I asked out one of my friends that I knew liked me. She had almost all the qualities I would look for in a significant other. She was kind and genuine. She was an active member in our parish, and she was just a wonderful person. But we all know how that ended up. Graduation came and went, and it was the middle of the summer. It was a cool summer day, cloudless sunshine overhead, a quick breeze, and I went to go have a chat with my mom at her grave. Laid down a blanket, pulled out my trusty Bible, and read some verses that I had found comfort in over the years. I set the Bible on my lap. I stared straight at the evergreen in front of me. I just said it. Mom, I'm gay. That was the first time I'd ever said it out loud. Saying it out loud made it real, and that scared me beyond belief. I cried one of the hardest cries I've ever done at that moment. And it was that day that I vowed to take this secret to the grave. I would find a wife. I would love her. We would grow old, or I would just join the religious life and no one ever had to know. A new year, a new school, and for all anyone knew, I was straight. I could fit in with the Catholic community and the male community, and I didn't have to be intimidated by guys anymore. Everything would be different. It turns out the only thing that was different was where I was going to school and where I was living. I had never felt like less of a man. Instead of just seeing the other guys in class, I was living with them, around them constantly. The fear that somebody was going to find out who I truly was so high, and I didn't want to get close with anyone. I was already attracted to guys. The last thing that I needed to do was put myself into a friendship with one of them. I distanced myself from everyone that I would care about for fear that someone would find out. In April of my freshman year of college, God decided that my plan to stay in the closet wasn't what he wanted. And I came out. Coming out was the hardest thing that I've ever done. It was harder than watching my mom die. It was harder than singing at her funeral or watching her casket get lowered into the ground. I had shared the exact secret that I was never going to tell anyone. The secret that I had kept to myself for so many years was going to be out. Society tells us what we should do, how we should act, who we are supposed to be. That may look different for everyone. For me to be a real man, I needed the best beach body, a large bank account, and an attractive woman on my arm. I don't have any of those. I spent so much of my life anxious and worried and upset that I wasn't enough. A good enough Catholic, a good enough gay guy, a good enough you name it. It wasn't until I finally stopped and started to accept myself for who I am that I got a glimpse of what being good enough was. Being unapologetically me. Don't get me wrong, self-love is something that I struggle with daily. But when you tell yourself a lie for long enough, you start to believe it, and that's just what I did. But trust me, you are enough. You are perfectly imperfect. Those are the facts. Those are the things that are true, and those are the things you should try and believe. It's never too late to turn and look the truth square in the face and start to believe it. You may not believe it. You may even reject it, but that doesn't make it any less true. Now, if any of you are struggling with being gay or having same-sex attractions or whatever you call it, I strongly encourage you to just consider telling one person. I never intended coming out to be in my path of life. And look where we are now. I'm speaking to you as a practicing Catholic who's trying to follow the church's teachings, who happens to be gay. That's something that society and many people just assume doesn't exist. I'm far from perfect, but that's the beauty of being Catholic. You don't have to be perfect. Completely contrary to what society says, I have received nothing but love and support from my brothers and sisters in Christ. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. I appreciate all of your time and your openness to hear my story more than you will ever know. I will leave you with a quote by Marianne Williamson that has gotten me through many lonely nights. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that people who are around you won't feel insecure. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, and it is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. When we let our light shine, we unconsciously give others the permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberated others.